For the next hour, deepen your shade of green. This is the Shades of Green radio show, featuring the latest in technology, money-saving ideas, legislative updates, and all things green. The Shades of Green radio show is presented by the Green Alliance. Now here's your hosts, Paul Ira and Stan Hannell.
Good morning. This is Shades of Green radio show on KDWN. We are simulcast on 720 AM and 101.5 FM here in Las Vegas. Our show is produced by Green Alliance in Nevada and sponsored by NV Energy, and I am your host, Paul Ira. Today in studio, we have Vanessa Portillo and Bryan Cabble, and it says Justin's not here. Where'd Justin end up? And from Garden Farms. And we love these guys. They're often on our show. We love talking gardening and farming, and they are the experts. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And, of course, Stan Hannell, our co-host, is in the studio with us as well.
Thank you, Paul.
Listeners, if you have questions, you can call in at 702-257-5396. That's 702-257-KDWN. So, Vanessa, Bryan, tell us a little bit about yourselves. We've heard this already, but tell our new listeners about yourselves and why you're so green and how'd you get involved with Garden Farms?
So I spent some time after college. I became a certified herbalist in North Carolina, and I started working around kids more, and I just decided to bring it back. I'm born and raised in Las Vegas, so I came back, and I was working as a substitute teacher, and I was like, I wish there was just a way to merge plants and kids. And my old roommate actually was like, you should look into this company, Garden Farms. I'm like, okay. So I did, and then I became a farmer for them for about 4 years. And then I just earlier this year became the director of the nonprofit foundation, Garden Farms Foundation. So that's just been amazing and great.
And you are always full of energy and smiling. I love that.
Thanks.
And Bryan, talk to us.
Well, I'm not as cool as Vanessa. I'm not born and raised, just raised. Born in California, moved here young. And then I've kind of just been growing for over 20 years. We always did at least like tomatoes and basil on the back porch. So it's always been an interest of mine. I ended up meeting some people who work at Garden Farms through the Great Basin Permaculture Group, which is sadly now defunct temporarily. But I was looking for an opportunity to volunteer somewhere, and I didn't hear back from any of the nonprofits I asked. And they were like, hey, we're hiring. So I started working 1 day a week, and it just evolved from there.
Well, we had a function on, what was that, Thursday? Thursday. Yeah. And Bryan didn't make it. We missed you. And I was talking to someone about you. I said, I'm not sure where Bryan's from. I'm from Iowa. He would fit right in there. I mean, this guy, a big guy, little overweight, great beard, always smiling, happy with the doesn't have a seed corn hat, but close enough.
I look corn-fed, though.
You look corn-fed, my man. So you look like a farmer. Love your work. So what's your mission of the organization?
So it's to help people grow their own food, and to, teach kids about where their food comes from. So often now we just see all these packaged foods, and we just don't understand the source anymore. So just helping people know where their food comes from, how to grow it well, and why it's important to eat organic and local.
One of the early lessons I learned was never eat anything in a box that comes in a box or through a window.
That's good advice.
So you can use that with your kids. Don't eat anything that comes in a box or through a window. So tell us some more about Garden Farms and who you're teaching to farm.
Well, I mean, we do a lot of business where it's residential work, so people who want to learn how to grow their own food, and we use better than organic standards and practices. And then we've built, probably like over 160 school gardens by now in the Valley. Yeah. And then we've also got some community gardens that we help manage, and, there's opportunities for people just to come to those community gardens and learn how to grow their own stuff and see some stuff in action. And then also a couple different businesses or hospitals. Just it's, garden therapy in a lot of cases.
How many different schools do you have those gardens in?
Well, we've built over 160. I think probably like 50
to 60.
Active, 50
yeah.
or 60.
50 to 60 schools?
Yeah.
Currently.
So you have multiple gardens in each school. And tell us how that works. That always intrigues me, how you go in and take up the turf and raise funds and help the kids all do the design. I mean, you work with them on this, do the design, the construction, the planning, and all that.
Yeah. So, basically we go in and just take a look at their space. SNWA did a great rebate program, which is starting to kick back up.
Okay.
We'll talk more about it later.
That went quick. We'll talk some more about garden farms when we come back. We'll go to a little break, and we'll be right back. Good morning, and we're back. Shades of Green radio show on KDWN, simulcast 720 AM and 101.5 FM. Our show is produced by the Green Alliance and sponsored by NV Energy, and I'm your host, Paul Ira. In studio, we have Vanessa Portillo and Bryan Cabble from Garden Farms, and of course, Stan Hannell and Annette Bubak. Good morning, Annette. We're talking gardening and schools and what have you. Vanessa, you've got a announcement to make? We kind of cut you short on that last one.
Yeah.
You were still speaking.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was just talking about how we get the gardens into schools.
How do you do that?
And so, so we go and check out their space. I was talking about the SNWA grant, which they're kicking back up this year at a higher cost. So they're giving
it's like $3 per square foot, I think. Yep.
Yeah,
per
the
square
water
foot.
rebate program.
Turf removal.
Yes.
Rebate.
And so that's great for schools who just have so much excess grass. And so we take that out. We help them with that grant. We put in a garden program. A garden farmer comes out once a week, and the kids come out for a lesson. They get hands-on knowledge in the garden. They can take it back into their classroom, and I work with the teachers to implement a curriculum that they can use when the farmer's not there. And, you can use the garden in so many ways, whether, science, but math and language arts. You can even just teach a class out there. Having structured outdoor learning is so important. Our recess time, outdoor time is just getting cut shorter and shorter all the time. So having that time to learn while you're outdoors is really great. And the garden is a great way to do it.
Well, God knows recess was always my favorite class. So cutting that short, I think, is really demeaning education.
Yeah.
So spending time outside is very good for them, and I bet they go right to their gardens when they get outside.
Oh, yeah.
That's great. I can just see them. So it always intrigues me the amount of curriculum that goes along with this. I don't know if you actually provide curriculum, but the education that goes along with it, because they learn so many things about raising funds to get the materials to build the garden. So they work in the community. They learn about the design of the garden and how to design a garden, and then they learn about the construction by building the garden themselves. Then, of course, planting the garden, and then growing the garden, and then picking the fruits and vegetables from the gardens,
Yes.
and then selling it, and then cooking it. So there's so many different areas of education.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part?
My favorite part is probably harvesting with them.
Yeah.
Just like pulling out a root crop from the soil is probably the most exciting experience for everybody.
Because you don't know what you're going to get until you get it up on top.
Exactly. And I'm like, I don't know. Do you think I should pull this radish out? I don't know. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, all right, let's do it. Pull it out. 1, 2, 3. Oh my God. They just freak out. And you're just like, yes.
I always thought radishes were cool to pull because the seeds are so tiny. They're just almost can't see them. They're like dust.
Yeah.
So that's great. Last week, we had a mixer. The Green Alliance had a VIP green thyme mixer on Thursday at the Bluffs Blue Heron designed home.
Yeah.
And Chef Myra was there, and I saw you walk in with 2 trays of microgreens. What's that all about?
Yeah. So we actually, Chef Myra, she's a vegan chef who's amazing.
She's the best.
Oh my gosh. And so she just really wanted some local produce. So we helped her with her meal. She basically made this whole meal based on 4 ingredients, locally grown. So we worked with her to get her eggplant and her peppers and tomatoes and basil. And then we also worked with West CTA Greenhouse, and they grew the microgreens. And so they have a big greenhouse program there where they do hydroponics. And so it was really great to just bring all that together and hear Chef Myra's presentation. She's just so educated, and she can flip any meat eater into a vegan. I feel like her recipes are just so tasty.
She had little meatballs or
Yeah,
vegan balls, if
made
you
with
will.
the eggplant.
And I ate them twice. I had to go back and get some more because they tasted so much like just regular, like Italian meatballs.
Oh, yeah.
And they were very good. And those were made from eggplant?
Yeah, they're eggplant and other things, but and then she also made these amazing empanadas with eggplant as well.
And I noticed those eggplants were like tiny. Were those special or those weren't
We
typical?
had some big, some small, but what you probably noticed were our purple bell peppers, which are really fun. A lot of people don't know that you can grow purple bell peppers, and those were a little smaller. But she's just
these eggplants were. I've grown many kinds.
Yeah.
I've grown the Japanese ones, which are bigger, long. These look like a stunted Japanese eggplant because they were so small. And usually they don't turn black when they're that little.
Yeah.
So they were just little ones. That wasn't a
There
different breed.
were different
Okay.
sizes. She must have used the larger ones for her cooking, and then those as demonstrations.
They were cute.
Yeah.
Very good. You guys are involved in planning on maintaining school garden programs. What happens in the fall after the garden's all grown up and everything? What goes on with the students and back in the classroom?
Well, fall's the best time.
Oh,
That's our
yeah.
best season because we still have all the warm season crops. So we'll still have tomatoes, chilies, eggplants, even some melons and squashes going until those things get killed off by frost. But we're also putting in all our greens and our root crops and our lettuces, and we can do another batch of herbs that are a little bit more tender and can't make it through the summer. So fall is really our spring and, everybody else's spring and summer. Fall is our bounty season. So like September through December is the best time to have a garden here in Las Vegas.
If you could see the excitement on these people's faces. So, and who all builds on these? Do you have volunteers help you? And if so, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's always an opportunity when a school gets a new garden if they want to do a volunteer opportunity to help out, like filling the beds or just understanding how the irrigation gets built for a bed. We'll do like a little demonstration for them. But as far as volunteering for other things, too, there's always plenty of work to be done on any garden. It's just a never-ending punch list or to-do list. So if they were to get a hold of Vanessa over at the foundation, there's so many different opportunities just based on what their interest might be on how they can help out everybody in the community.
Yeah.
So what's your website?
So it's gardenfarms.net, and then if you go /school-gardens, that's the foundation's page. And then you can, request to volunteer. You can just volunteer your time as a gardener or learning to garden. If you're a chef, we love chefs. We love artists. We love entrepreneurs. I mean, we love people who talk about health. There's so many ways that you can participate. I mean, I met with Emily Headland from Mint and Honey Yoga a few months ago now, and she's like, I just want to be able to bring yoga, together with people like you. And I was like, do you want to teach a yoga in the community garden? And she's like, yeah. So we started Om in the Orchard, which our next day is Friday, October 5th from 5:30 to 6:30. It's a free event. It's donation based. And you just come, bring your yoga mat. You do yoga in the community garden, the San Miguel Community Garden. We'll plant a seed and then harvest.
And do a little work
Great
in the
fun.
garden and pay for your yoga class that way.
Absolutely.
That's great. I love it. We're going to talk some more about garden farms and sustainability when we come back to Shades of Green. We'll be right back. And we're back to Shades of Green on KDWN, 720 AM and 101.5 FM. In studio, we have Vanessa Portillo and Bryan Cabble with Garden Farms.
I know those people.
We're talking farming. And some of the most exciting people to have on the show because their energy level is so high, their passion for farming. And we love farming and gardening, all of us sustainable types. So tell us now, this is a great time of the year. The heat is gone. I always say, well, we made it through another August.
Yeah.
Still alive. No worse to wear for sunburn. But now it's a very exciting time because we're harvesting the summer plants and a great time to start planting your next crop. Tell us what we should be planting right now.
Well, if you wanted to kind of cheat it still, if you can find any short season stuff, you can still. We've got a short season cucumber that's like 45 days that we've been sneaking up until about now, just if somebody really wanted cucumber. And then tomatoes, chilies, and eggplants, you still got enough time before the frost to have some decent production if you don't already have them in your garden. And that's why I always tell people, don't pull out your tomatoes in the summer. So if I can give one message today, that's the message. Don't pull everything out in the summer. It'll bounce back. Just cut it down and let it reflush out. And so that's all the warm season stuff. The cool season stuff is the greens like kale or collards or mustard. The root crops, actually the combination green root crops. So beets, make sure you eat those leaves off your beets. Those are delicious. And it's kind of the same as Swiss chard.
You can plant beets now?
Yeah.
Aren't they kind of a long growing? Oh, could they?
No, they're about 55, 60 days usually.
Okay.
But as we get kind of into the cooler weather and we're getting less and less sun each day, things take longer than what that says on the seed packet.
Yeah.
So your carrots, if you plant them in November or December, they might take 120 days instead of 60 days. But like turnips and beets give you greens and the root crop. And then all the rest of the root crops like radish and carrots, parsnips, rutabagas. Yeah. I mean, all sorts
Who doesn't love
things.
A gray rutabaga, huh?
And then definitely the lettuces is what we're starting to put in now. And I tend to put the lettuces somewhere where they're getting a little shade in the afternoon next to something tall that's still in the garden, just so because it needs cooler weather, and it's not as necessary for sunlight. So it's okay if they're half shaded through the day.
Yeah.
And then definitely peas. Sugar snap peas.
Oh, yeah.
You just can't beat. The kids eat it up like candy in the gardens.
And the more you pick, the more you get.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a fun one.
I haven't had a lot of luck with peas yet. I tried growing them in my greenhouse, and it just didn't work out. Greenhouses are completely different. I never did really figure out how to use my greenhouse.
They're a cool weather crop, so greenhouse is probably not the best place for them. So just popping them outside, giving them something to climb up. And Cascadia is a really good variety for the sugar snap. That's one of my favorites.
Cascadia.
Yes.
Love it. So, and then the frost doesn't hurt some of these plants. Like
it helps some of the plants.
The root plants, I noticed, they don't mind the frost. And sometimes you can see plants next to each other. The frost hits one, it just dies out. The other one seems to grow bigger.
Yeah.
Just those fun genetic mutations, just like, between people, we're all human beings, but we all have our, slight differences.
We're all mutants too, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, right? Basically. But like frost helps a lot of different crops, like especially the greens, like kale, it sweetens up after it goes through a frost. So, granted, you can grow kale year round, but really you want to do it more fall, winter, into spring.
So is this the time to plant, and when is the time to plant for that summer crop? I've been out there as early as February, and I'm thinking about pushing to January.
There's always like one sneaky last frost, though, that we tend to get at the beginning of March. So I'm always just keeping my eyes on it. If you live on the west side of town, you're more likely to get hit by that. But us east siders, we're a little bit luckier. It's a little bit warmer. So we're lucky in the winter, but summertime, rare. But
not so much.
Yeah, exactly. So we're looking to plant stuff. If you wanted to get weird and mess with like sweet corn, plant it right after you see that last frost. Pop it in, and you'll get some corn in May or June. And then tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, all the nightshades we put in transplants in March as well. We hope we get some production before the summer shutdown for the tomatoes. But the eggplants and chilies are going to kick out production throughout the whole year.
I'm impressed on eggplants. They grow crazy here.
Oh, yeah. They can withstand the whole winter if you take care of them. They can be a year-round plant.
Really formidable plants. Yeah. And cutting them, you can tell. They're hard to even cut.
Yeah.
I grew Japanese eggplants, and I've already grown the what do they call them? The diamond black or.
There's Black Beauty, the European eggplant style.
Yeah, the Black Beauty. They get pretty big.
Yeah.
You don't want them that big. But the Japanese eggplants just get longer and longer, and they never get tough in the center. So you could always cut them. They're always nice and tender. So that's what I liked about the Japanese.
I was eating them raw with students the other day at one of the schools.
Eggplants?
Yeah.
Really?
Because they were like, hey, can you eat this? And I was like, well, I don't see a reason why you can't, but let me try it first. And I was eating, and I was like, these are actually really good.
I
picked them just a little bit. They weren't fully purple yet. It was the Japanese eggplants, so they still had some streaks of white to them. But man, they were delicious. Like, if
and
you
the
just slice
flowers
these up.
Are incredible.
So beautiful.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Gorgeous flowers.
Purple.
Some of the prettiest flowers I've ever seen, and they're huge. They're as big as your hand. Beautiful flowers. Some of the other things that you can grow, of course, haven't talked much about herbs. We've got an herbalist here. The chives and basil and rosemary. Tell us about growing them and when to plant them and which ones we have to be careful, because I know mint, you got to be careful. It will take over.
Yeah, definitely. Well, as far as any perennials, a lot of those herbs are actually perennials, and you can get those. Fall is actually the best time to plant your perennials. Once they overwinter, the root structure gets stronger. And that's actually why on a lot of seed packets, they'll say to store in the refrigerator first before you plant them if you're doing that in the spring. That's kind of a way to cheat through the fall because, the natural process is they go through the refrigerator, the winter,
right,
and then they germinate. But perennials is the best time is in the fall to get those in. But yeah, definitely with mint, you want to be careful. Parsley actually spreads a lot as well. Parsley is another very hardy plant, which is delicious and amazing, but you kind of want to plant those on the edges of your beds. Rosemary, it grows like a weed out here in Las Vegas. So I actually like to plant rosemary outside of the garden bed. Because it will thrive in more poor soil.
And it's actually sold as a landscaping plant.
I saw one day a hedge made of rosemary.
Oh, yeah. Tons.
I was like, oh my God, it smelled great.
You're like, I just need a leg of lamb now.
So, yeah, but, and a lot of these herbs also serve as companion plants as well. So when you're planting your crops, like basil and tomatoes and peppers are best friends. So planting basil next to your tomatoes is really, really great idea. Looking into companion plants is really important, and you can get a lot of variety in your bed. It's actually a bad idea to have kind of monocropping, just having all the same crop growing together in one place is a bad idea because there's not really a relationship starting to thrive. So when you get those herbs, you get the benefit of growing herbs and vegetables, but also the growing benefit of attracting beneficial bugs and keeping pests away, attracting birds and ladybugs and things like that, and also helping the soil, fixing the soil as well.
I always grew marigolds around my tomatoes, and that keeps the
nematodes,
the butterflies away. And then I grew horseradish in the corners of my potato beds, and that keeps the worms away.
Nice.
Awesome.
Horseradish is one you got to be careful with, too. That can spread pretty well.
It will take off,
yeah.
Yes. Now, how about asparagus?
Well, so you could do it in fall. I prefer in spring because then we can source like really good crowns that are 1 to 2 years old and just giant, weird-looking octopus things, So you're digging down real deep. You make a little hill, plant it over, and start covering. And as they grow taller and taller, you cover it up until you're back at soil level.
It's a forever plant, too.
Yeah, it's multiple decades.
Yeah. All right, we're going to talk more about what we should be planting when we come back. We got some announcements on Shades of Green. We'll be right back. Good morning, and we're back with Shades of Green on KDWN 720 AM, 101.5 FM. In studio, we have Vanessa Portillo and Bryan Cabble from Garden Farms, and we're talking farming and what to plant. It's that time of the year for that next planting. They're recommending we get some kale, collards, beets, carrots, turnips, rutabaga, and eggplants are still providing fruits. Are those fruits?
Yeah, they're fruits.
I think eggplants.
I think anything with a seed inside's a fruit.
Yeah,
no matter what the Supreme Court said about taxation.
I don't listen to the
for
Supreme
tomatoes.
Court anyway. So all good. Lettuce, peas, and Cascadia peas are our favorites. So we're going to talk more about how to prepare your gardens and adding topsoil and mulch and what's a good mulch. Let's start with what's a good mulch.
Anything that's biodegradable. So don't go using rock in your garden. Don't go using anything that's treated or like a weird colored dye or anything like that. Just leaves, grass clippings, as long as, they're not being sprayed. So you can control the stuff that's on your own property so you know what's on there. Or go and talk to your neighbors when they put a bag out. We've got farmers who, like Dana, he'll go and just go through his neighborhood and be like, hey, you guys doing anything? You're spraying? Can I take these bags? They're like, yeah, okay, weirdo, go ahead. And he's just like lasagna sheet layered, mulched his whole backyard.
Really?
Just using stuff, free stuff from around his area.
I was bagging my grass clippings and, putting them in the garbage, and I thought, why am I doing that?
That's
now
so
I
much
dump
nitrogen.
them all. I'm building up an area in the back of my yard.
You just have to make sure they're not flowering, that you're not putting grass seeds into your garden.
Yeah, that's, cut my grass off enough that it's not going to seed.
There you go.
So, yeah, that's true. And then, of course, this is a good reason why not to use pesticides and herbicides in your yard. And I have a whole roll of stickers, and maybe you've seen my stickers around there. It says, save the bees, stop using pesticides. And I put them everywhere. So you go to the Home Depots, they're on the parking signs. So keep your use of chemicals down so that you can use your grass clippings and everything else. Now, I have a a fig tree and a pomegranate tree. So now the leaves are getting ready to fall. And the fig tree is enormous, and the leaves are enormous. And so my plan is now just rake them up and just put them in the garden.
There you go.
And then after they dry, walk on them and crush them down.
Yep.
That works beautifully.
So how about topsoil? What's a good topsoil, and how often should you put topsoil in?
Well, we've got a few different mixes that we offer, whether we make them or have a local company in town mix to our specifications. And then we even have one, I call it vegan soil. So it's 100% plant-based.
Yeah?
There's no like animal manures or anything in it. So that's actually, and it performs pretty well. But so we've got a few different options that we do. But if you kind of keep your compost going, and when you first build a garden, incorporating some garden soil that you get from a source that you trust, by all means go crazy. I know UNCE, the co-op extension, they sell compost, or they have wood chips for free if you load them yourself. Or if you ever talk to a tree trimming service, you can, have them drop chips at your house. And you can use that for a mulch, and as it breaks down over time, you kind of are composting in place.
So you can use these chips as any bad trees you don't want on your yard?
Oak,
on your garden?
specifically oak. But our scrub oak here in town, those aren't as bad. It's certain type of oak that you just want to steer clear of. So I would recommend maybe trying to compost it, run it through your compost, and test it in a container somewhere if you're not sure. But most of the trees out here that tree trimming services are clipping are like Palo Verdes, acacias, mesquites, which are nitrogen-fixing trees, and they're cutting off the very ends of the trees to bring them down in size, and that's where most of the nutrients are in the growing buds. So it's got a special name. It's called ramial wood chips. So it's like somewhere between compost and wood chips. It's more going towards compost because of how many nutrients are at the growing tips of the trees.
So all those little limbs and everything are good.
Yeah, for sure. Especially if it's the nitrogen fixing trees like the acacias, mesquites, Palo Verdes.
Mesquites. I'm growing 2 little mesquite trees and hoping to make shade trees out of them. Very nice. We've got a couple of announcements to make. Stan, you got anything before we go into this Power of Good? And Annette? Annette, talk to us. You've got announcements.
Well, we do. We have a couple of announcements to make. NV Energy has a Power of Good giveaway, which is different nonprofits and different organizations through the state of Nevada are going to be voted to be able to receive some funding for different programs and different efforts that each of them have. And what's kind of cool is that both the Green Alliance's Green Fest is one of the candidates for that sponsorship and that giveaway. And we also have the Garden Farms that's also on the list. So what we really want to do is promote everybody to log on to the website and place your votes. And I understand you can vote once a day, and it's based on your email address that they're gauging that. And
Which
so
website?
The website is
nvenergy.com/POG giveaway. So Power of Good giveaway.
Okay, so repeat that one more time, Vanessa, for everybody.
nvenergy.com/POG giveaway.
Excellent. Okay, so the dates are starting tomorrow, and then through Tuesday through Friday, the 25th through the 28th, and we want to get as many voters and many of the listeners and many of our supporters to get out there and vote for these different organizations, and especially these two, because we deserve it so much. We work so hard for Green Fest, and we work hard for everything that we're doing in the community.
Absolutely right. And for
Thank
people
you.
who are loving sustainability, and that should be everybody who wants to live longer, these folks are doing great work. So help us all out. Go on to the NV Energy website and vote for these things. And back to any other announcements. We had a great...
there's a couple events coming up. There's Veg Fest this Saturday. It's kind of concentrates on like vegans and the whole lifestyle behind that. So I bet Chef Mayra might be out there.
Chef
She's
Myra,
planning on being there, yeah.
So different, caterers or independently owned food operators, and just people focused. It's kind of our sort of people. People focus on sustainability and helping to improve the environment.
Everything vegan.
And
All
where
the
is
food,
that?
all the products, everything there that's going to be served or sold or crafted is all vegan.
I think it's at the Clark County Government Building, which is where it was last year, and it just keeps growing and getting bigger and bigger each year.
So it's 10 to 6 on Saturday.
10 to 6 Saturday. Okay.
We also have a Water Fest coming up, you guys. Clark County Water Reclamation is actually hosting a Water Fest, which will have many different organizations and partners there as well. What's really cool is you get to bring your families out and have a tour of the facility. And if you've never seen what happens to what goes down those pipes, both the toilet and the drain, and all of our different, sewage and everything, and it takes that sludge from the point of receiving to putting it back into the river, and you actually get to have a tour from the beginning to the end and see the process. And it's very, very eye-opening and very interesting.
Wow.
And you really start thinking about what you're putting down the drain after
Definitely.
It is very interesting, and we don't want to be a pain in the drain.
No, don't be a pain in the drain.
Their pain in the drain is their program to keep us from putting things down the drain. We shouldn't, like grease and drugs. Those are the two worst things you can put down the drain. And so if you do visit the CCWRD, Clark County Water Reclamation District offices, and they'd love to have visitors, they'd love to have kids in there. They have posters out front and signs of how things work, and they'll give you a pain in the drain can, which you can take home and put all your bacon grease and all your greases in. So
they'll be giving those away at the fest too.
And they always give those away. They have big, tall stacks of those, so they're great. And so attend these.
The date for the Waterfest, is November 3rd.
November 3rd. Cool.
Yep.
So, and that's at CCWRD,
It
which is at the far east end of Flamingo. So tune in next week to Shades of Green on KDWN, and have a great week out there, and keep it green. We'll see you next week.